to start. Okay. Welcome everyone. Very good evening from SNCC Rehab Foundation. This is Harshali Kharche from Nagpur. I'm the parent and the founder and the director of the SNCC Rehab Foundation. Welcome. Very nice to see you all. SNCC is basically Special Needs Integration Center. We are based in Nagpur. But our motto is to create awareness about various disabilities and sensitize the society about the inclusion, acceptance, and various interventions. Also, we are like going into establish support system for parents in various areas like advocacy, emotional, mental health, child's developments, overall developments in various areas, and of course habitat, that is residential hub and financial sector. And another very important is to sensitize government, professional and eminent personality of the society about the challenges faced by special needs community, so they should understand our problems in proper way. In Nagpur, we are coming up with various projects. Actually, we are introducing Special Needs Integration Center. That is, we are going to providing a conducive environment for children with special needs, so as to facilitate their development, education, and help them to develop their fullest potential and enhance their independence and enable them to become a well adaptive individual in society. So for that, in like different support systems, we are going to provide that recreational center, community support center, rehabilitation, homeschooling, vocational daycare, and residential hub. So these are coming up in under one roof. Here our motto is to educate parent and develop the perspective towards the right kind of interventions and treatments. Many parents are getting misled into various different non-evidence based interventions and treatments. So we are trying to get the right kind of interventions on this platform. Today, this is very important topic for all of us, like because there is a lot of confusion about financial planning for special needs, when to start, where to start. So I think this was this topic I thought we should take up today. For this, we have, I mean, he doesn't need any introduction, but I'll still want to introduce him, Mr. Jitendra Solanki, who is the founder of Plan Special Needs, SCBI Registered Investment Advisor, CEP and CTEP. He is also the founder and director at Special Needs Estate Planning Private Limited. He is from Delhi, and he will guide us on financial planning. Also, one thing I always mention, like I use his book Financial Planning for Families Having Children with Special Needs. Always it's in my, I mean, in my hand only. So like I always see that it has all the solutions you need, any kind of guide. Just please go through this book. I really want to recommend this book for this financial planning. Okay, I'll not take much time, sir. I'll hand over to you, Jitendra sir.
Thank you and welcome to all parents to this session. So today is a very important session we are going to take on, and yes, when we talk about planning for the special needs child, and there are a lot of issues which revolve around our mind, and the most important one is the finances. So how you will provide the finances, for what are the provisions which are available, how you should really go about managing the finances when you have a special need child to care. So we are going to discuss a lot on personal finance today, and we're going to discuss more on financial planning. So I'll just give a brief introduction. My name is Jitendra Solanki. I am the founder of Plan Special Needs. That's an organization which focus on completely on special needs planning. I also incorporated Special Need Estate Planners Private Limited. Now, this is a private limited company which is working exclusively with special children families, and we work on will, private trust, and other aspects, mainly on estate planning. Dr. Shweta Solanki, she is a chief consultant and plan special need, and she is also the director of Special Need Estate Planners Private Limited. So she is a disability expert with 15 plus years of experience. And then we also have in a team Mrs. Shilpa Wag. So she is a consultant at Plan Special Needs, and she is also the chief knowledge officer at Special Need Estate Planners Private Limited. So this is a small team we have, and as I said, I am working with special children families, and my main objective is to cater to their needs. And when we look at both financial and legal aspect, there is so much to address. So I started off with financial planning, and then in the last year during the epidemic, I incorporated the complete estate planning firm, which will manage the estate planning affairs of special children families. Now, what is the objective of this session today? So we'll understand what exactly is special needs financial planning, why it is required, how you should start, what are the components in financial planning. I'll take you through the 5 building blocks of special needs planning. So 5 areas where you should prepare to ensure that you have a comprehensive plan for your family, including the special need child phase. Estate planning tools I'll touch upon today. I'm not going to discuss much on this because we have a webinar coming completely on estate planning, where I'm going to discuss more on detail on the estate planning tools. So, special needs planning, what does this word mean, and what exactly is special needs planning? Now, a financial life plan for a family with a special needs child to care caters around 3 areas. First, plan for parents' retirement. So, the parents, much like they are concerned about special needs child future, they have to prepare for the retirement, their own retirement, which will include the special need child future also. Plan for sibling future. So if there are any other family member, for her or his future is also needs to be planned, and plan for special need child future. So financial life plan for the family will include, and generally I always say that a financial planning for a family with a special need child to care, it's actually planning for 2 generations, one for yourself and the second for the special need child. Now, special needs planning, what exactly it is? Now, it's a roadmap where you integrate traditional planning with the requirement of a special need family. Now, traditional planning, when I say traditional planning, the traditional goals like buying a house, buying a car, your own retirement, these are traditional goals which are common across all the families. But there are certain unique requirement when you have a special need child to care, because you have his or her future and the needs are going to be a bit different. So when you are planning for the complete future in special needs planning, when you are doing, you are integrating 2 plans, where one is the traditional planning with your goals, and the second is a special needs child plan. So when you integrate these 2, you get a roadmap for your family future. And yes, special needs planning is an effective financial and legal strategy. So you, along with the financial plan, you also have to work on the legal plan, because when you talk about special needs child future, there are going to be a lot of legal issues to be addressed, and you will have to identify the right framework. So when you are planning for your special needs child future, you integrate 2 financial and the legal strategies, which integrate the child requirement with yours. And formation of a will, trust, guardianship are the major elements around which your financial future or the financial future of the special needs child rest on. And special needs planning also defines your vision for your loved ones. So though you have a special needs child, you have your own vision, what life you want to give to him or her, how should he be taken care by the future guardian, how the trustees should manage the affairs. So you have a vision for your loved one, and when you do a special needs planning, you actually identify that vision and you make it public, to the people who's going to be around your child for managing his or her affairs. Now, financial planning, just to give you a brief what exactly it is. Now, it's not a product I'm discussing today, but financial planning in reality is it's a process. It's a process which you are laying down to ensure that you whatever life goals you have identified, which will also include the special needs child goals, you can meet those goals within the management of your finances within the limited resources. So this is a dynamic process, because once you lay down the financial planning process, you review it, you monitor it, and you accommodate whatever changes coming in your life in the future. What are the elements of financial planning? When I say elements, these are the elements to be included. First is the cash and debt management. So understanding your cash flows, what's coming in, what's going out, how much you are saving, that is an analysis of cash flows. The debt management part, uh, how much debt needs to be borrowed, whether the amount of debt you have taken is beyond your means, what is a good debt, what is a bad debt, or debt management strategy. Income tax planning. Income tax comes on three aspects. One, the income tax on your income, the income you earn, then the income tax you pay on the investment. So the right income tax planning strategies. Education, child care funding strategies. So if you have a special need child, then how you're going to fund his financial lifetime care. So that strategies needs to be drawn. Retirement planning. So the financial planning includes the retirement planning also. How much money you require in your retirement, what is the corpus you require, and how much corpus you require for the special needs child also. So the right retirement planning strategies. Employee benefit plan analysis. For salaried individual, there are a lot of employee benefits available. So those benefit plan analysis is done when you are doing financial planning. Insurance and risk management. The right kind of tool, the right kind of insurance which can manage your personal risk, be it life, health, disability, or any other risk you identify. Asset allocation and investment management. So when you plan for your future, then accumulating a corpus. So what are the asset allocation strategies? How do you manage your investment? What investment tools you should use? That is part of financial planning. Estate planning and strategies. So what are the legal issues you have to address? How you should plan your distribution of assets after your lifetime? The strategies regarding that. Business succession planning. So if any parents have a business, so how the business is going to be succeeded, who is going to succeed that business, especially when you have a special need child, and how your family is going to derive benefit from it. And the special needs planning, that is the planning for special need child future. How much money you require for his or her future, uh, today, tomorrow, and in the later years of life. Now these are elements of financial planning, and if you look at these elements, it largely covers the entire gamut of your personal finance. And so this needs to be covered. So when you are doing a financial planning, you have to ensure that these elements are covered. Then only you will have a comprehensive financial roadmap for your family. So how do you go about doing financial planning? So there is a 6-step process we generally follow. The first is start with goal setting. And when I say goal setting, so you have goals identified. You want to buy a car, you want to buy a house, there is your retirement coming in, the children education, marriage, these are traditional goals. But then you also have a special need child. So how you should set a goal with a special need child? So the goal setting strategy, the financial planning, the first step is that you set your goals. Now, once goal setting is done, then you analyze current financial situation. So you know your destination, you know your goals. So you analyze your current financial situation to see where are the gaps. So when you analyze your current financial situation, you are analyzing your cash flows, you are analyzing your investment, you are analyzing your provisions, and are seeing that what is required for your reaching your goals, and whether you have a short, whether you have a surplus, and where is the gap in reaching your goals which you have already identified. So you analyze the pitfalls, and analyzing pitfall means there might be inadequate insurance, the accumulation for accumulating the right amount of copper, you need to save more. So you are analyzing the pitfalls, and when you analyze the pitfalls, then you design strategies. That now I know where are the gaps, I know my destination, I know my current situation. So you design strategies which ensure that you can fill that gap. So you design strategies regarding your insurance, regarding your investment, regarding your retirement planning. So you design strategies, and then you implement the plan. So once you have designed strategies, you know very well this is what I need to do. So you implement the plan. So you go and buy insurance, you go and invest the money, you start your SIPs, you buy an investment product, and you draft your will, you prepare your trust, so you implement the plan. And then once the plan is implemented, that is just the beginning. Because as I said, there's going to be lifelong changes in your life. There would be changes which will impact your financial situation. So any financial plan you draw has to be reviewed on a periodic basis. So, for example, your child moving from minority to an adult phase. Now, there is a lot of changes, not only on personal side, but also on the financial side. How do you accommodate it? Your requirement might change. Your life insurance requirement might change. Your investment requirement might change. Your investment strategies, which you have planned right from the beginning, that might change. So you need to review your plan periodically and accommodate all these life changes in your financial plan, and then again revisit your strategies. That's how you follow a financial planning process. So this is a 6-step process of doing your financial planning, and any parent who wants to start the financial planning should know that should follow this 6-step process, and you can prepare a comprehensive plan. So now let me take you through the building blocks of special needs planning. Why I say building blocks? Because these are the blocks on which your financial roadmap or your family roadmap is prepared, and these are the some are the bases, and you have to address all these. Preparing a budget, estimating a lifetime cost, setting goals, setting the safety net, and retirement planning. So these are the 5 building blocks of special needs planning. First is the preparing a budget. Now, for the basis of any planning regarding your finances is knowing about your cash flow. And knowing about your cash flow starts from preparing a budget. And in all our household, we do this on a daily basis. So when you go and go for a shopping, so you prepare a budget. What you have to buy, how much it's going to cost, how much money you have, and how much is going to be left for other expenses. That's how you prepare a budget. Now, when you and the similar way we prepare a household budget. So, what is the salary you are getting? What is the expenses you have? How much money you are saving? But when you have a special need child, how you should prepare a budget differently. Create a separate budget for special need child. In general, whenever you have a special need child, you should be preparing a separate budget for the special need child. Now, what is that separate budget? Okay, I'll show this. Now, this is a expense sheet we have prepared which track only the money you are spending on your special needs child expenses. Now, why it is important in the future presentation, you will understand why this following a separate budgeting for your child is important. Now, if you look at this expense sheet, then it has 5 heads: living expenses, day-to-day care, which will cover domestic health, driver expenses, child personal needs, food, outing, clothing, accessories, inclusive school costs, so any schooling cost, transportation, clothing, coaching, books, cost for special equipments, modification, eyeglasses, visual aid equipment, health needs, doctor visit, therapy, medicine, transportation, social, recreational, entertainment, vacation, and any miscellaneous expenses. This gives you the total expenses month on month you are spending for your special need child. And it's important. And why it's important is because you are going to track it to understand that how much money you are spending, and also to identify the lifetime care cost, which through a case study I'll help you understand. So that was the special child, creating a separate budget for special child expenses. Now, how do you include in the family budget? Okay. Now, this is a monthly family expense worksheet. So, if fixed and variable expenses, this is what generally any family would draw. What are your expenses for your household: grocery, domestic help, house, telephone, internet. Then you have transportation, fuel, maintenance, children expenses, tuition fees, extracurricular activities, premiums you are drawing, any EMI outgo you are having, discretionary expenses, and then special child expenses. So when you add it here, this give you a family expense, but this special child expense should come from the separate budgeting sheet. So preparing a budget, create a separate budget for the child, include all probable expenses such as support equipment cost or any other cost. So if you are creating budget for the first time today, you will have to start with some assumptions because you would not be knowing. Then monitor expenses for a few months and bring accuracy in expenses and accommodate changes in the budget with child life stage. I'll discuss on how you decide or how do you create a child life stages. So that was the first element, first building block, and that is where you should start. So if any parent, the question comes in that where I should start today, so start with budgeting your special child expenses. The second building blocks is knowing how much money you require for your child life, estimating the lifetime cost. Now, how do you do it? So I'm directly going to the process. How do you estimate? So first identify all income sources for your child. So if you look at this chart, it shows you parents and special need child income, salary, business, rental, parents income post retirement, and also you identify on the basis of what income is received now, what is going to be received in the future, either directly to the child or to the trust. Government schemes, government employees will have monthly pension coming to the child, also any other monetary benefits, support which is coming from friend, family, relatives, gift, inheritance, and any other, whether it's an insurance benefit or an annuity income. So this way you identify the income sources, and then you identify the child expenses, the expense chart which I have shown earlier. So you identify those expenses, and when you identify, now when you are identifying the expenses, again include probable expenses. If child is minor, include future cost, determine today's value of expenses. I'll explain this through a case study. If any expense is unclear, monitor it for few months, account for inflation. Now, why inflation is important? Inflation is important because there is going to be rise in the cost in future. Just to give you an example, a 20,000 per month expense will rise to 1.62 lakh per month in 30 years with 7% inflation. Even if it is 4% or 5% inflation, the inflation has to be factored in to ensure that you are on the right figures. Certain assumptions are required when you estimate the lifetime cost. One is life expectancy of special need child. So the way you have in your mind a life expectancy for yourself, you will also be having for your special need child. So that is required. Income growth, at what growth your income will increase, that is an estimation. Inflation, whether 7, 10, 5, whatever inflation rate you take. Rate of return on corpus, so whether the amount of money you will leave behind, at what rate that corpus can grow, 8%, 7%, 6%, that is to be estimated. And taxes, what taxes are you going to pay, which will largely be depend on the amount of instrument or the kind of instrument you choose, but the taxes also have to be factored in. Let me take you through a case study to help you understand how do you estimate the lifetime cost. So I'm just taking a hypothetical case study. Vicky, 5 years old, is a special needs child. Gaurav, his father, wished to estimate the corpus required for his lifetime care. We assume that Vicky life expectancy is going to be near 70 years. An average inflation of 7% is assumed. for increase in expenses, assuming a growth of 8% on the corpus. Now, this is a hypothetical chart of wiki expenses. If you look at, I have taken the separate budgeting sheet of special needs child. Living expenses per month, day-to-day care assistant, personal need, cost for schooling, special equipment, miscellaneous. So the monthly expense is 38,500 today, and yearly expense of 4.62 lakh. Now, there are two ways to identify corpus. One is perpetual annuity method, and the second is inflation adjusted corpus. Now, why these two methods, and why we have worked on these two methods is perpetual annuity method is simple, that the 4.62 lakh annual income which Gaurav requires for Vicky's expenses, if Gaurav assume that that is the income which is required for Vicky lifetime, then what is the corpus he requires? So now, if Gaurav has a corpus of 92 lakh today, and if that corpus can earn a 5% rate of return every year, then he can easily meet that 4.62 lakh or 38,500 monthly expenses for Gaurav lifetime. So this is a simple perpetual annuity method where it is an annuity. Annuities are generally fixed; they do not increase with inflation. So it's a fixed amount which has to be provided for. And for this at different rate, the corpus would come in. Now, why this perpetual annuity method? What are the factors to consider? First, it's an easiest method. So it's the simplest method. A simple interest will tell you that what is the amount of money you require. Like so, 5% suppose, an FD would generate an interest. So if you have 92 lakh, it will generate a 4.62 lakh income for Gaurav, for Vicky's lifetime. Inflation is not factored in. So we are not factoring inflation here. So perpetual annuity method, when you calculate from this, you treat this as a bare minimum corpus you require. This is the bare minimum. Anything below this, it's a huge gap for meeting your special child financial requirement. So whatever corpus you calculate from perpetual annuity method, treat it as a bare minimum corpus. The method, so if you follow this method, it has to be reviewed every 3-4 years to factor in the change in expenses. Now, where does this method just help? That it helps to avoid facing a huge shortfall. As I said, 92 lakh is Gaurav requirement. Now, if Gaurav has only 50 lakh and in his mind he says 50 lakh is enough, he is actually facing a very huge shortfall because he is not even meeting the bare minimum corpus he requires. So, treat it as a bare minimum and take it that if you follow this, even follow this, it will help you to avoid facing a huge shortfall. The second method, or which is the right method, is the corpus for the inflation adjusted method, where you factor in the inflation. So now, if I've calculated by this for 4.62 lakh yearly expenses for Vicky's 70 years of lifetime with inflation, the actual corpus Gaurav requires is 2.38 CR today. So that means with inflation, the Gaurav need 2.38 CR corpus for meeting Vicky's financial requirement. So what are the factors to consider? Life expectancy can be higher or lower. Difficult to estimate accurate expenses, especially in early years of child life. So you have to take an assumption. Inflations are generally higher for special child because there are medical expenses also. And if you look at expenses, inflation, it would be around 10%. Most investment returns are variable, so you can't really depend on a fixed return. So that's how you estimate the lifetime corpus. Or simply, if I have to answer a question that what is the money I should leave behind for my child, then these are the method you calculate. The second inflation adjusted method we saw is the right way to calculate. Perpetual annuity method, it's just an easy method to help you to just know that this is the bare minimum money you should have. So this is the way you calculate, and this is important because this is what you will provide for when you are talking for a situation what after us. So you have to provide this money. The third building block is setting goals. Now, setting goals in a traditional way, setting goals is easier. You know a time horizon. But what happens with special needs child who has got a lifelong requirement and it's a similar requirement, setting goals becomes very difficult. So how do you really set your goals? And setting goals is important because that will define your horizon, on the basis of which you are going to choose your investment vehicle to accumulate the money. Traditional goal, as I said, how do you define? So you simply, based on the horizon, you divide it into short term, medium term, long term. So short term, so suppose you want to buy a car in next 2 years, becomes the short term expenses. Anything you have a house modification or a house buying in the next 5 years becomes a medium term. Long term, so if your child education is after 10-15 years, or your retirement after 15 years, it becomes a long term goal. So traditionally it becomes much easier. But then how do you do with special needs child? Because the requirement is a monthly requirement for lifelong. In the similar way, the way you define your traditional goals, you can define the special needs child goals. So any immediate expenses for next 3 years, you can bring it under short term. Any expenses up to 5 to 7 years, you can bring it up to medium term goals. And any expenses beyond 7 years, you can bring under long term goals. So that way you can break immediate, short term, medium term goals. And any additional support which is required, based on when it is going to be required, you can actually bring it under medium term, short term, or long term. So setting goal is also important because you're going to define the investment strategy based on this. The money you want to accumulate has to be based on some investment strategy, and investment strategy will follow the horizon which is required. Special need child, defining a horizon is very difficult, and that's where you take the clue from traditional goals and you set the similar way you set the goal for your special need child. Now, how do you define the timeline? Because this is one important aspect. So setting goals, when you are setting goal, how do you define the timeline? Now, this you will also find in my book, and this is the way of defining a timeline or life stages of your child. Because if you can define these life stages, if you can draw this timeline, you can actually set the goals for your special child. Now, the way we did it, we brought 5 life stages. The stage 1 is the minority. It's the stage of minority when the child is below 18 years of age. So when the stage 1 and he's in the minority, then what are the goals you have to meet? Diagnosis, early intervention, counseling, therapy, special education, special assessment. The second stage is adult living at home. So he has turned into an adult phase and he is living at home. So what are the issues you need to address, or what are the planning points? The legal guardianship, the funding childcare, services support, employment, guardianship, residential needs, the adult external living environment. So if your child moves to maybe a residential care or any other setup, then it is he or she is an external living environment. So what you have to address: child adaptability, residential facilities, the financial support to that, your own retirement, government benefit, change in location if you're in retirement, if you're changing location. Stage 4, the first parent death, the probate of will, the trust administration, the funding of the trust will come in. Second parent death, again the probate, the trust administration, the trustees, the legacy distribution, the end of child life, where the legacy, that means the amount of coppers which still would be there with the trust or in the name of the child, has to be distributed to whom. So this is a timeline you draw, or a life stages you draw for special needs child. And when you draw it, you actually make things very clear, and you can set a timeline of when is what goal coming. Now the next building block is safety net. The safety net you are looking for your child, the safety net you are looking for, based on today, tomorrow, and in the later years of life. And the first safety net, especially after the last year epidemic, the first safety net is health insurance. So you as a parent has to cover yourself adequately. If you are salaried, you might have an employer insurance that might not be enough. So you need to cover adequately. Now, how much cover? So there is no straightforward answer to that. But I think based on what cost you have seen, hospitalization cost, you will have to identify. Employer insurance is not enough, as I said. For special needs child, there are limitations today. Not many covers available, but this is opening up, and slowly and slowly health insurance companies are coming up products for special need children. We have seen companies covering autism, now Down syndrome also, cerebral palsy also, uh, and others disabilities also are getting covered. So this is opening up, which is good. So you will find health insurance option for your child also, and side by side also create a health fund which will ensure that during the emergencies you have the ready money available which you can take care of. So so the first most safety net, most important, is health insurance, because it can have a huge financial impact if you haven't provided for this. The second safety net is life insurance. Identify your actual financial requirement. Now there are thumb rules available in the market, 10 times of your income, 20 times of your income. But when you have a special need child to care, then you have to identify your actual financial requirement, and you have to ensure that your life insurance should also cover the lifetime care cost of a special child. In our case study, we saw Gaurav requirement is 2.4 cr. Now what Gaurav can do, because he will accumulate that money in the future, maybe 20 years down the line. But what if today? So how he can cover that money today? He can buy a life insurance up to that amount, which will provide for wiki expenses, after his lifetime. And today, with cover life insurance coverage available up to 100 years of age, I think this is one of the important aspects. And both parents need life insurance cover, because there would be financial loss when if any of the parents is not there. And even housewives are taking care 24 by 7 of special needs child, they should also have a coverage. Yes, there are limitations how much they can get a coverage. The maximum they get is 50% of husband insurance, but they should have a life insurance coverage. And avail only term insurance. There is no other insurance which can give you high coverage with lower premium outgo. Specific policy is not available today. And yes, it's an important estate for funding of the trust after you. So if you create a trust and if you don't have that finances available, the life insurance can provide that funding to the trust after your lifetime. So that's why life insurance is an important tool. Now how do you identify the coverage? And just specifically for life insurance coverage, two methods. Immediate corpus required. The first is emergency reserve, paying of loans, liabilities, legal expenses. So you can cover the future legal expenses which is going to come up during the will execution or the trust distribution or any other. Generate lifetime income, meet month on month living expenses, child lifetime care cost, regular expenses for hiring housemaid and servant for self or child care, guardianship, legal and other professionals fees, any additional expenses. So this is an immediate corpus required. It might come immediate. The future requirement would be child care for older age of surviving spouse, retirement expenses for surviving spouses, if sibling, then expenses for his or her education and marriage, and cost of house purchase if child with disability is going to live separately. So you are actually identifying your actual financial requirement. And with a special need child, it's very important that this should be done based on your actual requirement. Your life insurance coverage should be calculated on the actual requirement and not just a thumb rule. Our disability insurance is mainly, I'm talking about any of the parents or the primary earning member getting temporary or permanent disabled, then your income stops. Now the main problem is that your term insurance will not come in. So then what option do you have? How do you provide for? So the disability insurances are available through accidental insurance policies, where this any temporary or permanent permanently disabled situation of the parents can be covered. Other insurances, home, car, business. So wherever you feel there could be a large financial impact, should be covered through adequate insurance, because that is the way you can uh, provide for, or you can save money on any of the emergencies if it comes up. So for example, even home also, burglary, theft, or any other aspect you take in, these generally have a good financial loss. And to cover, so if you have a burglary, and suppose the the value of the amount of assets you lost is coming to lakh or 2 lakh rupees, you have to buy new items. So home insurances covered these kind of situations. So that way, whatever insurances are available, you can identify. But life, health, life, disability are the topmost three priority you should have. Beyond that, based on your requirement, you can cover. Now, that is the next investment planning, because your investment planning is going to be important. And with the kind of scenario we are there today, it's a complex world, because nothing is I say guaranteed now. Everything is variable. So how do you? So your investment planning should also be in actual of planning, not an ad hoc investment. So you review your existing investments, what existing investment you have, how they are meeting your goals, whether they are really meeting your goals. A personal risk assessment, so you do your personal risk assessment for your investment, whatever how much risk tolerance you have, how much amount of money you should invest into growth asset like equities, how much into debt, how much into small savings scheme. So that risk assessment should be done. Create an investment policy for long term, what policy you will follow for the long term investment, and then decide an asset allocation strategy, how much equity, how much debt. So again, your investment planning generally rests on the goal you set for your family, and these goals will define the horizon. So the long-term goals where you can follow an asset allocation strategy. For short-term goals, there are only specific assets where you will invest. So goal setting is important for following an investment planning. Largely, we advise families to follow a bucketing strategy, because in pool basis, what happens is that everything is pooled into one investment strategy, and from there you are withdrawing. But when you have a special need child to care, bucketing investment strategy can really be helpful. So what do? You actually create 4 or 5 buckets. Now, first bucket can meet regular income for first 2 years. Second bucket can meet income requirement for 3 to 5 years. The third bucket is for 6 to 10 years. Bucket 4 is income requirement for post 10 years, and bucket 5 is lump sum fund or any unexpected planned expenses. Based on these buckets, you can decide then investment avenue. Bucket 1, liquid investment. Bucket 3 can go into moderate growth income investment strategies. So that way, when you have a different bucket, you know very well which one is meant for what goal. So if you're creating an emergency fund for your child, you can have a separate bucket for that. So following a bucketing investment strategy might be really helpful. The last building block is retirement planning. Most I would say neglected aspect generally get delayed. So if you have to delay any goal, the retirement is the first one where things are get delayed. But it's the most important uh, planning aspect today. You can't delay more on your for your retirement, especially when you have a special need child. And what does retirement planning should include? Your own retirement, the special needs child expenses, post retired life, the residential needs have to be addressed. Where is he going to stay, where you going to stay, and the savings required. So this is the basis of retirement planning. To plan your retirement, identify the corpus needed at retirement. The way we have identified the lifetime care cost for the child, similar way you are going to identify the corpus required at retirement, which will take care of your own retirement expenses, post retired life, and plus your child expenses also. The corpus should include the child expenses. Evaluate probabilities of any shortfall in meeting the retirement goal. So you need to decide today. You need to look at today and look at that. What if there is a shortfall in meeting the retirement corpus? What can I do? Will you have to adjust today cash flow? So you can adjust today cash flow and save more for retirement. You can prepare yourself for more working years. You might be thinking of retiring at 60, 65. But if there is a shortfall in meeting the retirement goal, then what you can do? Maximize employer retirement benefits. So salaried individuals who have got employer benefit, they should maximize the employer benefit, which is one of the important part of your retirement planning. It helps you accumulate a good corpus. Evaluate the support after retirement. So what support you are going to get from where? So evaluate that. Evaluate residential needs of the child, especially in the retirement years. So where you're going to stay, where the child is going to stay. evaluate probabilities of relocation. So after retirement, especially families living in metro, so we have seen most of the families who have relocated to smaller cities because post retirement they need to reduce your expenses. So as I said, if you have a probabilities of any shortfall, this can be one of the options that you relocate to a smaller city where expenses are less. So you need to evaluate these probabilities. So retirement has to be planned efficiently, and all of these has to be considered. What after you? So basically, when I'm talking about what after you, I'm talking on the financial aspect. What are the options available to you? Either you can leave legacy directly to the child, which will be managed by the legal guardian then, or leave legacy to any family members like a sibling. You can leave the money which is required for your child to the sibling. He or she will manage the financials. You can leave the legacy to the trust. You can form a trust and leave the funds to the trust which will manage, or leave legacy to the institution or residential care. Now these are the four options available. Now which one fits into your requirement, which one is most suitable one, you have to analyze and identify. So completing an estate plan, you have to identify child residential needs. You have to write a will, living will, appoint future guardian trustees. You have to create trust for your child, obtain a legal guardianship when necessary. So once a child turns 18, the parents have to obtain the legal guardianship. Write a letter of intent. So that letter of intent basically letter of intent. Uh, okay, if I have to ask you question that suppose you are leaving your child to a neighbor for 4 hours, what instruction you will give it to him? Now extend this to 48 hours, you will give more instruction to them. In a similar manner, if you have to leave your child to somebody else for the lifelong, can you give verbal instruction? No. So the letter of intent is a document which is an instruction for the next legal guardian, the trustees, for them, which is a description of your child life and your vision for child life, what needs to be done in what manner. So that's a letter of intent, and these are all elements of the estate plan you need to complete. And provision for your old age. So you have to look at that when you reach to a very old age, what provision you will set, how will manage the expenses, finances. Take a special needs planning approach, address issues, identify resources, estimate the cost, and choose professionals. If you cannot do yourself, choose right professionals. Create a plan today, execute the legal plan. It's important. It shouldn't be in the books. It should be executed. Prepare a letter of intent. Monitor and update plan. So take a special needs planning approach and not just a planning approach. You need to have the plan ready. You need to execute it. It should cover your special child requirement, and you should execute all the documents which is required to complete a special needs plan. Okay, I will estate planning. So this I have covered. I'm going to talk the tools of estate plan: will, trust, guardianship, living will, letter of intent. These are the major tools. Okay, I am not covering this. 10 golden rules. So let me just go through what are the 10 golden rules. Incorporate child personal needs, living arrangement, educational program, employment, daily activities in the financial plan. It has to be included. Review financial plan periodically. Don't make it one time exercise. Where will the child live? This question is important and should be included in the financial plan because your finances will have to be worked accordingly. You need to have a high stability in your professional career. I think this is understood. Do not give asset to the child directly. That's our view. That should not give asset to the child directly because he or she won't be able to manage it, and it will be dependent on the individual as a legal guardian to manage it. Discuss with your loved ones on what needs to be done if you die early. Pen down your will and form the trust. Write a letter of intent. Take adequate life and health insurance. Finally, seek professional help and do not unplanned if you do not have any expertise. So if you do not have any expertise, do not keep it unplanned. Do complete your plan, take a professional help. Mistakes to avoid: not declaring child disability in insurance scheme. This is the most common mistake we have seen, that parents have taken a health or life insurance but have not disclosed the disability of their child. So do declare it. Not planning for contingencies, what happened during that. Not planning for own incapacity to work. So your old age, when you won't be able to work, who will manage your affairs? Because you have to manage your child affairs, so you need to plan for that. Failure to plan for long term care expenses, we have discussed how to estimate these expenses, and you need to plan for that. Planning everything to will is one of the solution, but it's not the complete solution. Will resolve a certain aspect. Failure to create a trust. So if you have to form a trust, do create a trust, whether through will or whether in your living. Estate documents created, even whatever estate document you create, letter of intent, will, trust, these needs to be reviewed. So shouldn't be left unreviewed, for long time. Inappropriate choice of trustees and executors, I'm going to discuss in the next webinar on all about this. Failure to communicate child needs with key people. So key people who are going to manage your child affairs after, or will be involved in any kind of support system, you need to communicate, and letter of intent becomes a very good document to communicate with them. What is there in your child life? What do you want for your child? And failure to plan for adequate funding of the trust. The trust creation is not the only solution. It has to be funded with adequate fund, because trust is going to manage affairs only if it has the adequate funds available. Summary of special plan: create the special financial plan, create that financial plan, execute the special estate plan, select the special dream team. So when I talk about dream team, the chartered accountant, financial planner, medical professional, estate planners, so you require a team of experts to execute your plan. Share your special plan. So share the plan with your loved ones, share the plan especially with those people who is going to provide a support system for your child care. And be sure to take care of special you. So you have to take care of yourself, because you are the support for your child for your lifetime. How we are helping families plan special needs through this organization. We are creating the roadmap for families to plan for 2 generations, and it's the long term engagement we do with the families. So estate planning, we help families in formation of a will, trust. And recently, in last year, we incorporated our estate planning firm. Through that firm, we are also providing trusteeship services. That is, as a trustee, we are going to manage the trust affairs. Investment management, we advise and manage assets for our clients. Assistance to the trust, so we assist trustees in managing affairs of the trust. So there is trust advisory services also, and as a professional trusteeship services also. Non-financial support, so within our resources, we support families in addressing non-financial aspect of life. Now, this is our creation, a life plan system which covers 6 elements. A life care plan is the first element, where it helps you prepare, uh, understanding the child life stages. The child transition plan, you need to understand the child transition phases, and what action plan you need to take, what issues you have to address. We create the special needs plan, we have discussed. We create the legal plan, we create that estate plan. The benefit plan, government benefit, gifts, inheritance, benefit during employment, and the communication plan. So whom to communicate, what to communicate, in what manner you can communicate. So your vision document, your letter of intent. So these are the 6 elements we cover through life plan system, and which is the basis of the roadmap which we are drawing for the families. Our vision, so we are at the pioneer in starting the special needs planning services, and through our estate planning firm incorporation of that, we have completed the bouquet of services which families want to create that comprehensive plan and the professional they need for the long term. And we are looking at becoming the most trusted special needs planner in this country. This is my credential. So our organization planspecialneeds.com, and second, Special Need Estate Planners Private Limited. My contact number and my email ID. So any queries parents have, anything they want to discuss, they are most welcome to write a query to me and we'll answer it. Now, happy to take any question.
Yes, I'll just go through the chat. So there is one question from Mr. Ashok Shah. For inflation, consider corpus. Where do you park your corpus to get returns for child care? Also beat inflations.
Okay, so there is no one solution to this. There is no single instrument where you can park and get an inflation beating return. As I said, it has to be an asset allocation strategy. So part of money has to be invested into growth asset like equities. Part of money can go into debt. Part of money can go into gold. So you need to prepare an asset allocation strategy based on your risk tolerance. With volatile assets, you the up and down, you will see how much downfall you can tolerate. Based on that, you will have to prepare an asset allocation strategy. For some parent, 30-70 might be a good ratio. For some parent, 50-50 might be a good ratio. So it has to be an asset allocation strategy, and investment avenues will have to be chosen. There is no single investment avenue where you can invest and get. You have to have multiple investment avenues you will have to choose. So if it is an equity, then on debt side you have small savings scheme, PPF, NSC, or any other small savings schemes, or debt mutual fund. It has to be, generally it is a combination of mixed of assets.
Yeah. Next question is from Ms. Prabha. Can I know the insurance company names?
Okay, insurance company name. So for autism, I'm going to give on different disabilities. For autism, Star Health has a product, Religear Health has a product, and I came to know United India also covering children with autism. For Down syndrome, through one parent, I came to know that ICICI might be giving the insurance. Plus, there might be development where other companies would have also started covering it, but these are the primarily companies which are covering. I think you should based on what kind of disability your child has. If it has autism, then there are ready-made products available. The products are already out in the market. If it is a Down syndrome, probably you'll have to talk to the company. And if any other disability, again, you can talk to the company. But these are primary one. There are some public sectors also like New India Insurance, National Insurance, which does cover a few disabilities.
Are there therapies are covered in these plans? Is it?
No, these are hospitalization insurance. These are not regular expenses coverage. Therapies like Star Health cover, but that is also 1,500 annually, very negligible. You won't find cover for therapies, but this is mainly the hospitalization cover. So if your child is hospitalized, this insurance can take care of the hospitalization expenses.
Okay. Next question is from Mr. Rodriguez. What is the best way for immovable property? Should it kept in the trust along with liquidity details as veto is required by how many people as per will?
Okay. Okay. What is the best way for immovable property? Should it be kept in the trust along with liquidity details, as veto is required by how many people as per will? See, you can transfer an immovable property to the trust, and the trust can manage the property. That can happen. Now, okay, as veto is required by how many people as per will? I've not understood the question completely. So, if Rodriguez is there, probably he
Yeah,
can ask.
Mr. Rodriguez, you can unmute and ask your question.
Okay, I'll still try to answer this. So immovable
Okay.
property, now what happens is that when in your lifetime, when you transfer it to the trust, so there is a stamp duty cost you have to bear. But if it is coming through the will, then that stamp duty is not payable because it's a succession. So it totally depends on your situation and what do you want. Okay, if you want that property should be transferred to the trust, and if you've created a trust in a manner that the trust is an irrevocable trust, and so nobody, no one will have a right on that property once it is transferred to the trust, then transferring it in your lifetime might be a good idea. Or otherwise it can come through the will also, so you can write in the will that the property should be transferred to the trust. Veto is required by how many people as per will? There is no veto required, depends on ownership. Whoever owns the property, he can write it in the will that this property should be transferred to the trust after my death, and so as per will execution the property will be transferred to the trust. I hope I am able to answer that question. If there is follow up, probably Rodriguez can ask me.
Sorry, Mr. Jitendra, I'd like to, I was not on mute that time. So what I wanted to know was, see, suppose like, we do not know what is going to happen tomorrow, for example.
Yeah.
Okay. We can do all investment, everything, finances, everything, but then we do not do anything for immovable property. Okay. So that is the best thing to put it in the trust. Now, suppose if we have like, 2 or 3 people who are like family members or friends, for example, together, who are going to take a decision. Okay.
Right.
So sometimes we do not know ourselves, like, maybe our own brothers are in self, like, with time, like, things change, people change.
Right.
Okay. So in that way, like, is there any sort of legally any proportion, like, as to decision making, as to 3:1 or 2:2 or something like that, that will be ideal, like, in future?
See, property transfer, one is it surely depend on the ownership. So if you have other family members, so you can only transfer your share of ownership to the trust, right? You can transfer. It's your will, so you can transfer, and after you, the trust will have the ownership of that particular share. And yes, whenever a property, any decision of that property has to be taken, so the trustees will take that decision for that respective share. Okay. So as far as transfer goes, so you can transfer your share, whether it's 1/3, 2/3, or any number. Legally, there is no definition of that. What number it should be. Legally, as I said, even if you have a 0.01% share in the property, you can transfer that share to the trust, and the trust will decide on that particular share. And when a property is, any decision of the property has to be taken, all shareholders, every owner has to sign the document. So it cannot happen that the two property owners can decide, and without the consent of the third one. The consent of all property owners has to be there. I hope I am able to answer your question.
Probably Jitendra ji, what he means is about the veto. He needs the decision taken by the trustee. I suppose he means that it is a 3 or 5 trustees, so that if there is a dispute, then majority can take the decision about the property after the death.
Okay.
And about my question about the corpus, this thing parking, my question was, once you are at the retirement stage, where do you park the corpus, where you get the safety of your corpus plus returns that beats the inflation?
Sir, you are on mute, sir. Jitendra, sir.
Sorry. Okay. So on that veto, the ones when you create the trust, you create the structure. Okay. Now, as a settler, if you are creating a trust, you can have that veto power in the trust. Where even if the decision making, even if there are 5 trustees, and you have a veto power. So if it is the decision is unsolved, through the majority of decision making, then your veto power will apply. But then there are implications on the the securities of that asset, because if you have a full control of the trust and you are the settlers, you have transferred the properties, then whether it can be really treated in that so legally there are implication of that on the veto power. But yes, If you have a veto power, your decision, would be final in that case till you are a settler. So that you will decide when you create the structure of the trust, and as per based on the structure of the trust, the decision making will happen. So if you decide that it should be the majority, prevail, then if you have 5 trustees, if 3%, 3 trustees decide in certain favor, that decision will prevail. So the decision making happens as per the provision in the trust deed. The second question, on your inflation beating returns. Sorry, come again on that question, Dr. Ashok.
It's regarding that corpus. When you're at retirement stage, you need the
Yeah.
structure of the corpus plus the return that beats the inflation. So what are areas where you can park those?
Yeah. So basically, what happens is, because it's a distribution, strategy now. You need money from that corpus also on a regular basis to meet your special child requirement. Plus, the money also has to grow, and there is no single strategy for that. The way you have to do is that some amount of this corpus has to be invested for the long term, probably 10 years plus, and that investment instrument should be a growth asset like equities, or mix of equities and debt, which can generate the inflation beating returns. So, and that will help you accumulating your corpus, getting a good return on your corpus. But certain amount of the corpus will be utilized maybe for the next 5 years or 7 years of monthly income you want. Now for that you cannot invest into growth asset because it is going to be volatile. For that you are looking at a asset which can generate a decent return but can provide security, to the capital. So you will have to draw a withdrawal strategy, how much money you can draw based on the return you get. So that those are the strategies you plan when you are into your retirement years. And in the short term you are not actually looking at higher return from the corpus. You are more looking at security of the capital. But the way you have to do is that some of the money should go to growth strategies.
Thank you.
Jitanji,
Ji.
I have taken an insurance plan for my autistic child. It's a normal insurance plan where he will be getting the return when he becomes 18 years old. So
Okay.
should I cancel this plan because I don't know whether he will be able to manage that? Should I cancel that plan and take something else in place of it?
See, whatever investment you choose for your child now, and if it is going to be distributed to the child after 18 years of age, the decision will have to be taken by the legal guardian. Now either you can be the legal guardian, or after your lifetime somebody else can be the legal guardian. So there is no problem in the money going to the child name. The decision will have to be taken by the legal guardian. So if you as a parent, after once the child turns 18, you will become the legal guardian. So even if the money is in the name of the child, you are the one who is going to take a decision on that.
Okay,
So yes,
but
so you will always need a legal guardian to take that decision.
okay. So should I need to talk to the insurance people regarding that? Because when I insured him, he was only 1 year old. That time there were no symptoms of autism, and the autism symptoms arrived later. So there is no information to the insurance company about it. So should I inform them and then discuss with them?
I don't think it will make much of a difference. If it is not a specific plan, there were two LIC specific plans which came out, Jeevan Aadhar, Jeevan Vishwas. If it is not from those plans, then it's a lump sum money which your child will receive. It won't create much of a difference, because the proceeds will come in your child name if he is the beneficiary now, and it will go to the child account. It's just that the management of that money is going to be through a legal guardian. Now that I don't think that will be the concern of the insurance company, because insurance company will send the amount. So it's going to be from the bank, from the bank's perspective, that who is withdrawing that money, and who is utilizing that money. So for your child, the legal guardian will be doing that processes. Legal guardian will be utilizing that money, and if you have taken a legal guardianship through the national trust, you will have to report it to the national trust on an annual basis, that what are the money in the name of the child, and how much money is left every year and where it is being utilized. So you will have a mechanism to report, of that money to the national trust as a legal guardian. But I don't think from insurance company's point of view it won't make much of a difference. It will be from the point of operation of that money, decision making of that money.
Okay, Jitanji, thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Okay, we have next question related to trust. Actually, what exactly is trust? Can I prepare a trust with 2 or 4 members? Should trust needs a lawyer or outside member to be a part of trust?
Okay, I'll just answer, a part of it, because in the next webinar we are doing, we
Next.
are going to cover the trust in detail. Now the trust is basically an arrangement, between three parties. One, you as a settler, parent as a settler, who's going to create the trust. So you are going to create the trust. The second is the trustees who will manage the trust, and trustees can be anybody. They can be family members, friends, relatives, or professionals like our company. So we can also be a trustee. So trustees can be anybody. And third is the beneficiary, who will be the your child. So this is the arrangement between these three parties. So, and more details, I think, I'll discuss in the next webinar. If you attend the next webinar, you will get a more clarity on the trust structure.
Yes, I'll just announce it. Like on next Monday, 22nd, we are going to have a webinar on estate planning, which will cover all these factors like why create an estate plan, will writing for special needs children, families, then private trust, legal guardianship, letter of intent. Today we discuss the letter of intent. So how that will be and estate planning solution ecosystem to provide special needs are after parents lifetime with case studies. So next Monday same time we are going to meet here for to discuss about the estate planning, so you will get the detailed answer in that. Okay, I think that was the last question for today. If anybody has any question, you can unmute, or we will stop here for today. Anyone? Okay, sir.
Somebody asked, I'll just answer. Navendu, if normal insurance is taken for an autistic child, should it be cancelled? See, there are two things. One, if the insurance was taken before diagnosis of autism, right, then your child is going to be covered. The insurance company will have to cover it. I don't think you need to cancel it. But yes, if you haven't declared when you have taken an insurance company, then probably you should declare it now and let the company decide whether they will cover or not. Because slowly companies are opening up, to cover. So they might decide to let the cover continue, or they might just say no to you. So it depends on when you have taken the insurance from. If it is before the diagnosis, then it's fine, no problem. But it is after the diagnosis and you haven't declared it, then you should declare it.
Okay, Jitanji, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, sir. And thank you everyone for attending this. And thank you so much for this insightful webinar. I'm sure it must be very helpful for parents. And then see you, sir, on next week, same time. Parents, do join us for the estate planning webinar. Thank you.
Okay, just one more announcement. I have talked about on the calculating this expenses part.
Yes.
And so we have built an online calculator. So any parents who want to understand how this corpus is identified and what can there, so you can go to our website planspecialneeds.com, and there you will find the calculator which you can use and you can work upon, just to understand how this corpus is calculated.
We can share the link in the groups
Yeah.
also, sir.
Yes,
So
yes,
they
yes,
can
that is
calculate that thing. That's a great
Yeah.
actually. Yeah, thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Good night, everyone. Bye-bye, sir. Thank you.